Happy Monday, guys. Today we're starting off with an AMRAP 10 of 9 box jumps, 6 deadlifts, and 3 power snatches. This workout, we're trying to work on our intensity. We're trying to work on power endurance as well. So we're with the movements here, the very powerful box jumps, deadlifts, and especially the power snatch movement there is a very hip-driven and explosive movement. So I want you to try to keep these unbroken as much as you can throughout the 10 minutes there. See if you can go from your deadlifts right into your power snatches. So you might not have a barbell at home, and that's probably most likely the case for home workouts here. And instead, when you finish those 6 deadlifts there, I want you to try to get right into your power snatch. And it's only 3. For this, you can either go 3 and 3 per side, or just go 3 alternating. So you might just do 1 extra on one side there, but you're gonna be doing a lot of rounds in this one. So up to you on that one, guys. The reps are low, enough that you should be able to keep the movements unbroken and keep your intensity nice and high. Box jumps, if you don't have something necessarily to land on, jump over something. So if you can pick something that's around 20 to 24 inches and you're comfortable jumping over that at elevated heart rate, then you guys can use that for the box jumps. Again, something that should be comfortable for you, kind of clearing that object if you necessarily can't land on something, okay? 10 rounds here. I would say you should try to get around every minute, and if you can, push yourself to finish a little earlier than the minute and maybe get into your 11th round by the end of the 10 minutes there. Once you finish, guys, we're gonna finish off with some ankle strengthening and a shin roll-out. I would say based on the box jumps there, and you might feel it on the deadlifts or the power snatches, the ankles and shins might get a little tight there. So make sure you get after that. If it's not tight, I would still do it to help you guys out, to keep yourself mobilized for the rest of the workouts to come this week. Hope you guys enjoy the workout and the afterburner today. We'll see you next for the warm-up video. Alright, so for today's warm-up, we're starting off with 3 rounds, 10 alternating arch raises. So we're going to come down to the floor, staying in our Superman position here, also known as a Superman. Going for those arch raises, so we're going to lift the arm and the leg at the same time, but the opposite limb, so cross body there. We're gonna go for those 10 reps there, really trying to squeeze our glute and our upper back as we do the alternating arch raises. Once we finish that, guys, we're gonna go into a dead bug, and if you like, you can use a weight here for the arm raises in the dead bug. So you'll go into that dead bug position, legs straight, try to have that tailbone on the floor. From there, you're just going to be dropping that arms down, really trying to catch you in the core, in those lats as well. We're going to be going for 10 reps here. As you do this, guys, I like to think about kind of squeezing the dumbbell together to really engage my lats as I'm coming down and up from that arm raise. As you do that, don't forget about your core. Keep it tight, keep your legs nice and straight, tailbone on the floor. Once you finish that, we're gonna go into 10 alternating reverse lunges. So if you want, use weight. I'm gonna show you guys body weight version for today. For the alternating reverse lunge, starting about a squat stance, you're gonna send that foot directly back, so don't bring it inwards or outwards. Bring it straight back into that lunge, chest up, knee, or shin is nice and vertical to the floor. I'm nice and tall. Then I'm gonna use that front foot to drive myself up forward. So I'm gonna lift myself up through there, trying not to use the back leg as much. We're trying to activate that hamstring, glute, and keep that chain, our core chain nice and tight as we do that. Once you finish that, we're going to repeat that for 2 more rounds of the alternating arch raises, those Deadbug Arm Raises, and those alternating reverse lunges. Once we finish the 3 rounds, we're just going to do 1 set to prime that upper body. We're going to go for 20 wall squats. So this is my setup here, guys. I don't want to talk to the wall, so 10. This line right here is my wall. I want to start off maybe about a foot away, depending on what your mobility is like. You're gonna get your hands overhead. So pretend there's a wall here. I'm gonna get my hands overhead, and I'm gonna come down to the bottom of that squat, and then back up again. So we're really trying to use this to prime ourselves for the overhead squat. If you feel comfortable, you can keep a good tight core. Notice and also avoiding that butt wink at the bottom. So if I'm coming down, my butt is kind of wrapping down. If I can avoid that, then I can get a little bit closer to the wall, make it a little bit more challenging. So I can walk a little bit closer. Now I'm about half a foot away, still keeping my arms overhead, and then again going for that overhead squat, or that wall squat against the wall there. 20 reps there. Break it up, 4 sets of 5, or just do one break, just kind of play around with it. Good for mobility, great strengthening, opening up the hips and kind of mimicking that overhead squat position. Once you're done that, grab the PVC, broomstick, whatever object you have that will kind of mimic that bar. We're gonna go for 5 overhead squats. Biggest thing I like to say for the overhead squats, guys, is those scaps. When your shoulder blades, try to squeeze them together and slightly pinch them upwards. So we don't want to push them up where we're shrugging our shoulders, and we also don't want to just retract them. I want you to retract and slightly push upwards so we can stabilize that bar overhead in all its directions, okay? So to do that, guys, start with the PVC behind your back, get into your snatch with, or overhead squat position with. That means just bring it to your hips. Bring your knee up. If your elbow bends, so let's say I'm here, my elbow's bent, I need to go wide enough that my elbows are straight, then that would be my ideal overhead squat position that you can work with for today. Once I'm there, PVC directly over top of the base of my neck. I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together and slightly pinching upwards, not overly, just a little bit. Elbows are locked out. Both the bony points of my elbow are pointing backwards at about a 45-degree angle. Nice and tight, core is tight. And now I'm coming down to the bottom of my overhead squat, looking straight ahead, holding that for 10 seconds, then coming back up. Obviously that was 10 seconds, but for your warm-up, I want you to hang out at the bottom 10 seconds, keep it light. Feel that position out. If you need to go up a little higher in your squat, go for it. This is good to kind of feel out the position, just like we did with the wall squats prior to that. We're kind of putting it together with that overhead squat. And as you feel comfortable, add weight if you want throughout the 5 reps. Make it a little bit more challenging, or even build up to your workout weight. Okay, so that will be the warm-up for today. We'll see you guys next for the movement standards.
Yourself an object, going for box jump, 4, 15 box jumps. You can step down, or you can jump up and jump down as long as you're not doing this. Open your hips at the top in your jump.
A single arm deadlift, we like to place that item in between the feet. So your deadlift width is going to be about where you squat. You can go a little bit wider if you want to get into that sumo stance. That's totally fine as well. And what I want you guys to think about here is we're going to think about that hip hinge. So I'm going to think about pushing that hip back and then drawing my hips down after that. You can see my shin is still perpendicular to the ground. So the difference if I was squatting is my shin would be going a little bit forward. I actually want to push that hip back a little bit, get my hip up in the air a little bit, and then I'm going to hold on to my object. Pushing with the legs, opening with that hip, we're going to push that hip back, and then lower the object again with those legs. I want you guys to squeeze your butt at the top, make sure the abs are tight. Sometimes when we squeeze our butt, we tend to overarch. Let's make sure we don't do that. Also notice how my head and neck stay nice and neutral. So when I'm at the bottom of that deadlift, I'm not looking straight, I'm not looking down, but I'm kind of looking just maybe a couple feet out in front of me. I want the top of my head to my tailbone to stay in a nice and straight line. If you guys have the mobility and you find it easier or a different type of challenge perhaps to stick to your normal deadlift position, so feet under that hip, and we're just going to keep that dumbbell or kettlebell outside the stance. It makes it a little bit trickier, but it might be a good challenge for you today to do that as long as you keep that back nice and flat. That's the most important part.
Starting with the alternating snatch. I got a dumbbell here, guys. So depending what you have at home, your starting position might be slightly different, okay? So what I'm getting at is if I have a smaller object, I might have to squat down to reach it versus leaning forward and rounding my back. That is usually your go-to, more natural kind of lean forward, reach for it. But then that changes your spine position, does not keep it in neutral position. So try to get in the habit of hinging with the hips, okay, squatting down if your object is a little bit smaller, okay? To avoid using your back or compromising your back position, use those legs. Just like any lift here that we would use with a barbell, you would deadlift it from the floor. From there, you guys are gonna drive your hips, heels into the floor. As you drive your elbow slightly back, then quickly turn it around and punch it to the ceiling, okay? Avoid that two-step because it's not a clean and press, it's a snatch, okay? So one fluid, continuous movement all the way overhead.
All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the run. I'm gonna go into the afterburner just to stretch out those ankles and get them a little bit more loose. So we're gonna start off with the ankle activation and strengthening here. So I'm gonna adjust to get her toes high as possible on the post. From here, she's gonna bend her knee in towards the post. For 90 seconds, we're gonna think about pushing your toes, for 10 seconds, we're gonna think about pushing our toes down into the floor, so into the post, while picking up through the ankle. And then 10 seconds, think about trying to pull the toes up while you're in that stretch position. So when you're doing this, guys, your toes shouldn't actually lift off the post. You should be in that stretch position. We're really trying to focus on pushing your ankle down to the floor for 10 seconds, and then pulling your ankle up for 10 seconds. So once you've done this for 90 seconds on both sides, we're gonna go into our shin rollout. So we're trying to roll out the outside of the shin. So you can use a lacrosse ball for this. First option is you guys can sit on the floor comfortably, stay on the outside of the shin, not on the bone, and then just rolling all the way down in that shin, starting from the top, just rolling all the way down into that ankle, trying to stay on that meaty part of the calf there and that shin, guys, not on the bone. You can take about 90 seconds on both sides, apply pressure if you find a little bit of a sticky point, hang out in that position. If you want more pressure, you're feeling a little bit dangerous, you can get on top of that lacrosse ball. So Jess is putting her weight on that lacrosse ball, and the same thing, she's going to roll forward. She's going to roll forward on that lacrosse ball as much as she can, and then same thing back again. That's the face that she's making that means it's feeling good. So play around with that, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the workout, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.